Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about the show Disclaimer on Apple TV Plus. This is going to be a spoiler-free recommendation and then a spoiler discussion. I'm going to be recommending the show, telling you why you should check it out, and then a spoiler discussion. Shout out to this guy for telling me to talk about it because I was dying to talk about this show, but I was like, no one's going to be interested. And I'm not expecting this video to do particularly well because Apple TV Plus does not promote their streaming service and doesn't seem interested in promoting its shows. Aside from Ted Lasso, I don't think Apple TV Plus has had any massive hits, and it's a shame because they've got incredible shows there. Morning Wars, season 1 at least. Blackbird, an incredible true crime show. Severance, one of the best shows in like years. Like there is so much good stuff on Apple TV Plus. Lessons in Chemistry, like so much good stuff. Killers of the Flower Moon, and they just kind of like poop it out and leave it there. All of it looks incredible. It's a really pretty service to use. It's just such a shame. And the biggest L here is the fact that no one is watching Disclaimer. This is an incredibly well done erotic thriller suspense created by Alfonso Cuarón, the director of Prisoner of Azkaban, Gravity, Children of Men, Roma. He's an incredibly accomplished visual director and also screenplay writer. Like he's really, really good. This is one of our best living filmmakers, teaming up with Cate Blanchett for a 7-episode miniseries, and it looks incredible. Also, Sacha Baron Cohen is in this, so let's talk about it.
The world needs to know who Catherine Ravenscroft really is.
So there's a main couple played by Cate Blanchett and Sacha Baron Cohen. They have a son played by Cody Smith-McPhee. And Cate Blanchett has a lot of guilt. She feels like she isn't a good mother. She feels like the marriage is working, but it's not as exciting as I guess she'd hoped. And one day she gets a book delivered to her called The Perfect Stranger. And I think it also has some photos attached. I might be misremembering some details. But regardless, she gets this book and she starts reading the book. And there's a little disclaimer, right? Hence the title that says, any similarities to real life events is intentional. You know, it's kind of a play on what you usually get in these warnings. And she starts reading the book and she realizes it's specifically targeting her. The main character of this book is considered a vile woman, a nasty woman, and it's exposing Cate Blanchett's real life secrets in this fictional character. Does that make sense? So then the mystery of the show is, what's her deep dark secret? What's she hiding? She's trying to avoid her son reading the book. She's trying to avoid her husband reading the book. You know, the husband's seen there going, oh, I'm sure it's not about you. I'm sure it's not that similar. And she's going, no, it feels very intentional. It was also delivered to me out of nowhere. Then the son gets given the book as well. So now this feels like an intentional sort of targeted thing, right? They are trying to expose Cate Blanchett. On top of that, eventually the husband is also given the book in about episode 1 or 2. So this is very early on story stuff. I'm not going to give away any more than that in the spoiler-free section, but it's really interesting. Like, just trust me, if you stick with it, it's very patient and slow and methodical, but if you stick with it, you get this incredible slow reveal of this like tragic, scary backstory to Cate Blanchett's character. All of the dynamics in their family, as well as other people she interacts with, starts to make sense. It's just really compelling TV. It's slow, it's patient, it's mature, but I really appreciate that the show feels like one of the rare shows that actually treats its adult audience as adults. You know, this show is filled with really morally icky stuff. It's full of really kind of like unfiltered sexuality, and the way this is all presented feels very real to life and cold. There is a sense of tragedy in the things that these characters are doing throughout the show, and I just think, and the way it's presented is so icy and cold that when these dark things are eventually explored, it is genuinely quite confronting. It hits close to home. I feel like for a lot of couples watching this show, or for a lot of, you know, parents watching this show, it's going to open a lot of cans of worms. It's going to be one of those great shows where every episode you're going to have something to talk about in your own life or your own marriage, in my opinion. And that's not to say this is going to ruin anyone's relationship. I just think what it's exploring is really well handled, and it's maturely paced. It is rather slow, but I don't think it's boring. Does that make sense? I just like how this show slowly delivers this information. It is not a show to be viewed as a second screen show. Do not have your phone out scrolling, waiting for something to happen. The show will not work. One of the biggest strengths of this show is how it's shot. Oftentimes the camera walks with characters, and then at a certain point when characters are feeling internally emotionally closed off, the camera will then remain in a place that isn't great in terms of a viewing angle. Oftentimes you get shut in different rooms and have to witness a conversation from a while away. If you're not already sold, I can't really sell you more than that, but now I'm going to get in a full spoiler discussion. So leave now if you have not seen the show, but let's go. So turns out Cate Blanchett's secret, right, is that she had this affair while on holiday with her kid and her husband, and then the husband went home. So then she had this affair with this young man, right? And then the young man swam out to sea to save her son when the son was out paddle boating and almost drowned. And then she let this young boy that she was sleeping with drown by not letting anyone know that he was out there, because that was more convenient for her, because that meant the affair was never going to be exposed, right? Because he wanted to like come home and live with her and tell the husband, yada, yada, yada. So when he swam out to save her child at the beach and then drowned, she let it happen. She didn't tell any lifeguards that he was out there because he saved her boy. Nah, done. It's a really effective scene. The sequence where this young man is dying is horrific. It's long, it's drawn out. The way it's shot is so excellent. Alfonso Cuarón has always been really good at this, right? The way he shot the sequences in Children of Men and Gravity, he knows how to like capture really interesting information. I love how this show is shot. Even the way the opening sex scene is shot, it feels like you're in the room kind of creeping on them. It's so excellently well handled. And this is highlighted in this section when the boy is drowning. It's harrowing and confronting, and it genuinely feels like you're there with him. I also think the way this show explores marital issues, whether it be in regards to sex or love or parenting, is incredibly well handled. So there are two kind of center marriages here, right? There's Cate Blanchett and Sacha Baron Cohen, and then there are the older parents of the boy that drowned saving Cate Blanchett's kid, if that makes sense. So these two older people are the ones that wrote the book and are then kind of poking at Cate Blanchett, trying to like torture her for the rest of her life. And both marriages have these like really just confronting scenes where the marriage isn't working, and it's really, as a viewer, hard to watch, particularly when Sacha Baron Cohen is delivered not only the book of his wife's exploits, but also the dirty photos that were taken of her. And he's confronted by how free she is sexually, the fact that she's wearing lingerie he bought for her, but he's never seen her like this. You see him kind of rack with that. And it's really interesting because the scene where he confronts Cate Blanchett about the affair, like, he's obviously in the right. You know, she had an affair while her kid was there. It was an insane thing to do, and the kid almost died. But in a really effective moment of writing, by the end of the conversation, Cate Blanchett is being so dogpiled, and this is before you know that she let the boy die. All you know is the affair. You kind of feel bad for her. Like, I felt bad for her, even though she was objectively in the wrong, because he's got her so dead to rights, and it was this thing she thought she escaped 30 years ago. I know, maybe that's a hot take, but for me, I did feel bad for her in this weird moment, because it was like, she's been a pretty good wife since then. And I mean, at the end of the day, that is your actions coming back to bite you. But I thought her performance was just so good here, and you have some empathy for her. So then when you find out later what she actually did, why she's in trouble, what she let happen to that boy, you really dislike her. You really, really dislike her. Also, this is a show where at the start of every episode, there is a content warning about its sexually explicit content. I actually think the way it's handled, the affair itself, the sexual exploits these characters get into is really, really well done. I'm not condoning anyone go and have an affair, but I think the way it conveys what both parties are getting out of this, why they are drawn to each other, I haven't felt this level of like chemistry and intimacy in quite some time. It draws you in, and it's equal parts kind of like saucy and inviting, but also rather confronting. It's really, really well executed. But my point here is that I think in terms of like putting us in the headspace of these characters, the show does a really good job. You get why both of them are kind of like hooked on each other, intoxicated with each other for this brief moment, and what both parties are kind of like treating it as. I really do also like the difference in the way the relationship is then presented between modern day Cate Blanchett and Sacha Baron Cohen. I do feel bad for him, obviously. And I think the amount of fallout that this like brief fling she has is really insane. You know, imagine having like a 2-3 day affair briefly and then it blowing up this much, you know, snowballing this much and destroying your life this much. And in my opinion, given what she let happen to that boy, fair enough. Now, the interesting thing is I've heard in reviews that apparently the last episode makes this show so much better. Apparently the last episode is absolutely unbelievable. And I'm really curious how the ending is going to go, right? Because we know the mystery at this point. The only questions I have are, how did the parents of the boy that died find out that Cate Blanchett was actually complicit, actually kind of let this happen? You know, obviously they know about the affair and they also know that the boy drowned, but how did they figure out the actual details? Did the son actually remember being out on that boat and tell them? You know, that could be what's going on. I'm really curious. But my question is the show going to follow the exact story of this fictional book, right? Because this fictional book has an ending. Everyone's talking to Cate Blanchett being like, yeah, that bitch got what she deserved, and Cate Blanchett gets offended because that's obviously like her, right? So my question is the show going to follow the narrative of the book? Is the show essentially going to punish Cate Blanchett, or is it going to go a different way? Really, really curious, really enjoying this show. Also, like, can we just talk about that scene where the old guy is buying the vacuum? Absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. He's trying to plant the book and he keeps like stalling and pretending to be interested in vacuum cleaners, and Cody Smith-McPhee is like pissed off from the jump. Hilarious. Anyways, if you haven't seen the show and you're now interested, you've still got 3 episodes left, so the whole show isn't spoiled. Check it out. Genuinely check it out. It's really good. Thank you so much for watching and have a lovely day.